Something extraordinary is happening in your world right now, though at first glance it may look ordinary. The truth is, most people around you are completely blind to it. They go about their days, scrolling, working, complaining, planning for tomorrow, never realizing that underneath the surface, reality itself is reshaping. It isn't loud, it isn't dramatic. There are no billboards or flashing lights announcing it. It begins as a whisper, a flicker, a small ripple in the rhythm of your daily existence. And yet, these subtle movements are not small at all. They are everything. It feels a little like standing at the very edge of a diving board. You're perched high above the water. Your pulse quickens, your chest tightens, and you know with absolute certainty that the moment you leap, nothing will ever be the same again. Except, here's the catch. You don't even realize you're already on the board. You're still convincing yourself that you're on solid ground. You're still acting as though nothing monumental is looming. But below you lies the vast expanse of a completely different version of your life. A version so radically altered from the one you live now that your present self would barely recognize it. The funny thing is, life never tells you when these pivot points are approaching. There's no trumpet, no headline, no bold announcement declaring, everything is about to change for you. Instead, it leaves breadcrumbs, subtle, delicate, almost invisible clues scattered across your path. Most people miss them because their attention is devoured by the endless noise of everyday life. The stress, the drama, the scrolling, the survival. They dismiss these clues as coincidences, quirks, irrelevant background noise. But they are not random. They are signals. I've spent years watching the patterns that unfold in people's lives right before they experience radical transformation, not only among those we call successful or famous, but among regular people. People who had no idea they were standing on the threshold of a completely different reality, until the shift swept them into it. And what I found changed everything I thought I knew. Because there's a sequence, a predictable pattern that plays out before every life-altering leap. Once you learn to recognize it, you will never see your world the same way again. Think back to the last time something incredible happened to you. Maybe it was a dream opportunity, a long-awaited breakthrough, the arrival of love, or a sudden moment of clarity that redirected your path forever. Now think back further, to the weeks or months leading up to that moment. I promise you there were signs, subtle irritations, strange coincidences, odd encounters, things that seemed random at the time but were actually stepping stones. The universe was aligning pieces of the puzzle long before you realized there was even a picture. And if you're experiencing certain things right now, if you're noticing unusual patterns, unexpected disruptions, or uncanny synchronicities, then you need to understand what's really happening. You are not stuck. You are not lost. You are in motion. You are in the middle of a sacred sequence. The first movement of this sequence is what I call the amplification of discomfort. Suddenly, everything in your life that once felt tolerable begins to feel unbearable. That job you used to shrug off as not so bad now feels like a slow death. Relationships that you once described as fine begin to suffocate you. Habits, routines, and patterns that used to comfort you now feel like chains. It's as though the volume on dissatisfaction has been turned up to maximum, and you can't escape the noise. Most people interpret this stage as evidence that something is going terribly wrong. They panic. They scramble to fix things, desperate to return to the old sense of comfort. They convince themselves they're failing, when in reality, the opposite is true. The discomfort isn't a problem to solve. It's a message. It's your soul expanding, outgrowing the cramped containers it once fit inside. Imagine wearing shoes that once felt perfect but now pinch at every step. The problem isn't the shoes. The problem is you've grown. That's what's happening now. Your inner being is stretching, and the outer shell of your life can no longer contain it. That irritation, that frustration, that restless dissatisfaction, it's your spirit begging you to stop forcing yourself into the smallness you've outgrown. This leads you into the second movement, which I call the magnetic shift. When this phase begins, you'll start noticing strange encounters. Certain people will show up with uncanny timing. Not just any people, but individuals who seem to embody the very direction you're heading. You may meet someone casually who shares your vision more deeply than friends you've known for years. You may bump into people who are already living a version of the life you've been imagining. You may find conversations with strangers strangely resonant, almost prophetic. These aren't accidents. This is your energy field recalibrating. Like attracts like. As your inner frequency rises to align with the reality you're moving toward, you naturally begin to magnetize others who vibrate at that same level. You're glimpsing the community of your next chapter. Pay attention. The people showing up now aren't just characters in your current story. They are previews of the world you're stepping into. Then comes the third movement, the eclipse of clarity. This is the most confusing stage, the place where many people give up. Because just when you expect everything to become clear, it doesn't. The opposite happens. The path that seemed obvious yesterday now feels shrouded in fog. Choices you thought you'd already made suddenly seem impossible. Doors appear to close. Options multiply until they overwhelm you. It feels like the lights have gone out, but this is not evidence that you're lost. It's proof that you're in transition. Imagine standing in a tunnel between two worlds, one behind you, one ahead. Of course it feels dark. Of course it feels confusing. Your old perspective has dissolved, but the new one hasn't yet stabilized. You're suspended between two ways of seeing, and logic cannot save you here. This is the phase where you must lean into something deeper than rational thought. Intuition becomes your compass. Subtle knowing guides you more than hard data ever could. You may not understand why you feel pulled in a certain direction, but if you trust that pull, you'll discover later that it was leading you exactly where you needed to go. Next arrives the fourth movement, the acceleration phenomenon. Time itself begins to misbehave. Days stretch endlessly, then vanish in a blink. You'll have bursts of unbelievable productivity, accomplishing more in a single afternoon than you normally manage in weeks. Then, without warning, you'll collapse into lethargy, unable to focus on even the simplest tasks. Your rhythms break. Your sense of control slips. You feel both hyperactive and drained, fast and slow, all at once. This happens because you are living in two realities simultaneously. Part of you is still tethered to the old life, while another part is already inhabiting the emerging future. You are straddling timelines. That distortion you feel in your sense of time is the stretching of consciousness across dimensions. Most people fight this phase, desperate to force themselves back into predictable structure. But the more you resist, the more chaotic it feels. The secret is to surrender. Let the energy surge and collapse as it needs to. Trust that this strange rhythm is reorganizing everything for your highest good. And then, like a sudden gift, you reach the fifth movement, the downloads of confirmation. Out of nowhere, resources, ideas, opportunities, and answers begin to fall into your lap. You think of something you need, and it arrives within days. You wonder about a question, and the answer appears in a book, a podcast, or a passing conversation. You visualize an outcome, and suddenly circumstances line up to make it possible. This isn't magic. It's alignment. When your consciousness locks into resonance with your true path, the universe doesn't resist. It supports. What you need was always present. You simply couldn't perceive it until you tuned yourself to the right frequency. But here's the tragedy. Many people dismiss these confirmations as luck or coincidence. They rationalize them away, failing to see that the universe is whispering, yes, this is the way. Don't ignore these downloads. They are not trivial. They are proof you are moving in harmony with destiny. Yet right here, when everything seems to be aligning, comes the greatest test, the surge of final resistance. This is where the old self fights back with everything it has. Your fears, your doubts, your self-sabotaging habits, all of them rise up with new strength. But unlike before, this resistance isn't obvious. It's clever. It disguises itself as logic. It whispers to you in your own voice, telling you to slow down, to be realistic, to remember all the reasons this might fail. It reminds you of every disappointment in your past and insists you're repeating old mistakes. This surge is not proof that you're failing. It is proof that you are succeeding, because your old identity knows it cannot survive what comes next. Transformation isn't about adding new decorations to your life. It's about becoming someone entirely new, and the part of you that clings to the old ways will not let go quietly. This resistance can show up in your body: sudden fatigue, headaches, restless sleep. It can show up in your emotions: wild swings between excitement and dread. It can show up in your environment: loved ones expressing sudden doubts, friends and family urging you to stay safe, colleagues subtly pulling you back into the familiar. They are not betraying you. They are reacting to the energy of your shift, because your growth highlights their fear of change. And if you withstand this storm, you arrive at the synchronicity surge. Suddenly, everything aligns. The right people call at the right time. Opportunities arrive with impossible timing. Information falls into your hands exactly when you need it. You think of someone and they appear. You wonder about a possibility, and the door opens that very day. This isn't random. It's resonance. You have reached the vibration of the reality you've been seeking, and now the external world reflects it back to you. It feels like magic, but it's just the natural law of alignment. You are no longer chasing, you are attracting. From here, you step into the bridging of identity. You begin to embody the person you're becoming before the external evidence shows up. You think differently. You carry yourself differently. You speak with new authority, new depth, new clarity. People begin noticing. They seek your guidance. They treat you as though you're already living the life you've been moving toward. And in many ways, you are. Because identity is the foundation of reality. When you become the person who naturally holds the life you desire, that life has no choice but to arrive. And finally, the sequence culminates in the cascade of momentum. This is the tipping point. Everything begins to move faster than you can control. Doors swing open, opportunities multiply, people arrive, eager to help. Projects that once crawled forward now leap into being. Life itself accelerates toward the breakthrough you've been preparing for all along. And that's when you realize, this wasn't random. This wasn't luck. The restlessness you felt, the discomfort that grew unbearable, the strangers who appeared, the confusion, the time distortion, the confirmations, the resistance, the synchronicities, all of it was part of a larger pattern, a divine choreography preparing you for a leap into a life that once seemed impossible. And now, here you are, standing at the edge of the board. Whether you recognize it or not, the water below is shimmering, waiting. A new self, a new life, a new reality is calling. And the only question left is, will you leap?